running ripples, shadowed by radiance. Light shines true on your reflection.
I want to first start off with how I'm going to approach this. Because when I write poetry, I also want to write it intentionally. Even if that is me intentionally dumping my feelings down to write poetry, just to know why I'm writing is very important. For this specific piece that I'm writing today, I had some inspiration that I had a while ago, which is such. There's something about the way the sun meets the water. I got this inspiration from meeting a person and their energy, their presence. It sparked a certain way in my head of why words should appear certain ways, or why certain things should be such a thing. Anyway, so my intentionality of this is why I'm writing is to describe a presence. So I'm gonna put that down. Now, what type of presence am I describing? Is the real question. It's like, I want to describe one that's unique, that's full. Characterized. What? How is a person such a thing? And is there anything special about this? All through, let's see, normal actions. There we go. So a person that's unique, full, characterized all through normal actions. That is another proper way to, whatever. And now the next, I want to talk about the type of poem, which will also indicate the style that you're writing, because the different type of poetry, the different type of rule format, the different type of style that you're going to write in, and it really heavily influences
The piece that you're writing. There's a lot of common ones like haikus, which is specific syllables. There's sonnets, which is rhyme scheme focused with different, oh, how did I forget that word? Stanzas with different different stanza count for each rhyme scheme. So it's a big difference and a big choice. Why is it a big choice? Because it dictates how you're gonna write. It dictates how you choose to limit your freedom. What? Such a weird thing. Now there is free verse where you just write anyway, however you want. But what's the fun in that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing free verse today. Well, I'm gonna do the other stuff. Anyway, so style of poem. S-T-Y-L-E. Boop. Free verse. I totally typed B. And I did it again. Alright. Even though it is free verse, I am going to give myself rules to follow. So what is my first rule?
I came up with a stanza count. Stanza count? No. A syllable count for each line inside of my stanza. I'm thinking between 1 or 3 stanzas, anywhere between there for the poem. I'm not sure how I want it to go yet because I haven't figured out, got to the next step yet. But so let's start off with this. I want to have 14 syllables altogether because there is something about the way the sun meets the water. Is that really 13? Hold on, no. Can I get a count? No, it's 14. I got that. So, because the 14 syllable count here, I want to go from 14 down. I decided to go from 14 down to 2. What? 14 down to 2. Subtracting, not the same amount each time, though, equally. We're going 14 to 11 to 8 to 5 to 2. I did this. Okay, so let's see. Syllable. So it's 14 to 11 to 8 to 5 to 2. I did this because the person who inspired me, they have structure, but the structure is randomized. It's weird. So I know for the first stanza, I want to use this, but I might change it up for the second stanza. Always going down to 2, starting at 14 though, saying, even though there is change, there is influence in between this, there is still a form of structure, a semblance of a reason of why I'm doing this, even though it seems sporadic. My next step, now that I have my style, I have a rule I want to do. Actually, I want to talk about another thing though, because this is a rule for me because the way I want to approach this for the poem, but usually this is a technique. But it's assonance and consonants. Oh my goodness. Consonants, assonants. Okay, but yeah, those two, I want to use them a lot throughout this poem because I want this poem to feel kind of rhymey, to feel kind of rhythmic. In a sense, I want it to feel comfortable. I don't want it to feel overly comfortable or overly placed, so I might limit it a little bit, but I want it to make you feel like you're in a whole new world, even though you're in the same place you're at, in a way. Okay, so let's go over to the next thing. Now my next is each line. I know that I have, what's that, 5 lines? 1, 2, yeah, 5 lines. I have 5 lines. So for my first stanza now we're getting to the first stanza. What does each of the lines mean? What is the intent behind the lines? So my first line is boom. There is something about the way the sun meets. Ooh, my typing. I'm rushing the water. There's something about the way the sun meets the water. What is that telling me for? You know, not even telling me for, but what is that telling me? What I'm seeing is, I'm just setting up the scene of the person, saying there's something that is there, a presence, kind of. So, setting the scene, a scene for the presence. Now, even though I'm talking about presence, even though I spelled those terribly wrong, but even though I'm talking about presence, I'm talking about scenes, quality, characters, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's people. That's why things like personification exist, because even though you can be using items to describe people, that's why you give them human-like qualities, it is still a richer, more nuanced taste sometimes to use that. Anyway, but now let's go for the second line. The second line with 11 syllables. The real question is, what do I want this line to be? How am I going to describe it? I should actually thought about what the first stanza would be first. Stanza. Boop. More like person introduction, maybe. But that's based off, a personal introduction might be better. Personal introduction. Also might be the end of the poem here. Possible end. Okay, so the second line. Third line, fourth line, fifth line. I want this fifth line to be the conclusion. Conclusion. But I don't want it to be the end. Conclusion, but not the end. I want it to be like making peace, or a continuance. Similar to how stories are, that you know how the rest of the story is going to be, so it ends without telling you how it's going to end. It's like, you know, stories that end at a new chapter of a character's life. Things like that. Okay, now that I developed this, I can actually go a little further forward. Okay, let me focus on, because some of these words can give me ideas here. Like, maybe sun or water. Yeah, water for the second one. I like that idea. So now the question is, what is the water? What does the water represent? Question mark.
So, sun. What does the sun represent? Maybe something like that. Who are you as a whole? Do you know I spelled that wrong? Boop. Okay, I like this. I'm gonna build off of this now. Now, what does the water represent? That is an important question. Because there's something about the way the sun meets the water, meaning those two are the important factors. You know, water is heavily associated with a flow, healing, balance. There we go. I actually like that. Water is balance. Water is stability. I actually really good water. The properties of earth. So stability, what is that? Hardness. density. Structure. Water is structure. Water is structure. What about the sun? What do you represent? The sun is change, influence, and outer presence. Something like that. Now we're in this. What difference this all is. So now, using this idea of the structure, I'm going to just try to get my 5 lines. Anyways, I was thinking about the second line, about how the sun affects the water in this scenario. The vast dark blue cast and radiance by grace. Actually, I'm gonna change that. I know I am, but it doesn't matter because it gives me an idea. So sun affecting water. Now this third line, I want to go how the water affects the sun, but it doesn't. Kind of doesn't. It does, but the sun's reflection on the water. Instead of talking about the actual sun, I can talk about the reflection of what the sun is. In this case scenario, instead of talking about the surrounding, I can talk about how the surrounding is reflected. Yeah, that's it. I'm limiting myself. I was only talking in sentences. See, like there is something about the way the sun meets the water, the vast dark blue in the cast, the high rise and gravitational. Instead of talking about in sentences, I can talk in lines, talk in thoughts, almost, in this poem. Since I can't think of it all at once, we're gonna break down little by little. Vast dark blue, ocean, stretching, waters, wide waters, nope, unseen, waters, nope. Okay, I bet. I thought of a second line that made me think of ideas like form, running, ripple, shadowed by radiance, which I like. Makes me think about maybe darkness or maybe pain that's hidden, as in running ripples, pain, hurt, unseen circumstances. You know, things like that. There's something about the way the sun meets the water. Form, running ripples, shadowed by radiance. Here's the first stanza for what it is right now. I have done a lot of word choice. I need to now choose if I'm going to change words to rhyme or create assonance or consonants, but anyways. There's something about the way the sun meets the water. Form, running ripples, shadowed by radiance. Light shines true on your reflection. What a beautiful horizon. I got the first stanza done. I'm not actually going to be happy about this because it's not what I want it to be due to the lack of consonants or assonants of vowel sounds. Like the ending of ing from forms, running ripples, I didn't like that. It was too much ing there. So instead I changed it to, there's something about the way the sun meets the water. Forms of running ripples, shadow radiance. Light waits true above your surface. What a beautiful horizon. Anyways, the next would be the second stanza, which is, in the distance. That's 3. In the distance, which makes that 5. Anyways, I'm gonna come back when I'm done. Yes, when I'm done. Okay, everyone, I finished the poem. I didn't end up doing what I wanted to do with the rhyming and the accents and the consonants. I also ended up changing the syllable count as well in the second line because, no, not second line, second stanza, because I couldn't fit the frame of what I wanted into my syllable structure. But sometimes you have to break the rules, I guess. It's a little disappointing. I did stick to it mostly, so that was very nice. I like the way it turned out for now. In the future, I definitely feel like I'll revise it because I see it turning into something else as well, but just not there yet, you know? But I really do like it. So here's the poem. There is something about the way the sun meets the water. Forms of running ripples, shadow radiance, light waves true above your surface. What a beautiful horizon. Many wonders on the distance your reflection reaches. How light the horizon smiles at the world. How graceful the ocean's light show is. How very radiant you are. Colorful measures marked at both ends of the horizon. No color more vibrant than the present sun mark. No truth more real than the ocean sheen. No presence fuller than yours. Okay, that's my poem. I hope you all enjoyed it, as I've enjoyed your time. I'll see you all next time in today's Artistry Poetry Chapter, as we're writing the world one step at a time.